you where you're calling in from. Maybe you can use the chat function for this purpose. And Camila, my chat has just deactivated. It has just disappeared. So maybe, is it possible that I leave and return? But I will need to upload the slides again. Oh yes, the chat has appeared again. Beautiful. Gdańsk, Rafał, you're the first one who has shared your location. Beautiful. Thank you, Rafał. Mhm. Gdańsk as well, Alexandra. Great. What about all others? Marta, you're now in Nantes, in France. Zielona Góra, beautiful, the Western Poland. Okay, glad to have you in the session, Ola. Beautiful. Okay, so what we are doing, we are activating the chat now and writing which location you're at. Jagienka, Sopot. Beautiful. We all would love to be with you. Kraków, Katarzyna. Okay, hello, good morning. Świnoujście today. Beautiful. Jastrząb. Okay, Szczecin. I am imagining many summer locations, or is it just my fantasy? Okay, and people are still joining, so let us wait for the wave of joiners, and we'll be starting the session. Hello, Annette, Middelfart in Denmark. Beautiful to have you here in the session. Today we are talking about what really makes global teams work. And we want to go beyond stereotypes, beyond communication styles, and see how we can get to the bottom of what really makes international teams effective. Maybe stop guessing, stop just relying on, let's say, intuition, and look a little bit into the evidence-based approach. So this is why we have gathered in the session today. Karolina, Wrocław, good to have you here. We are ETTA, ETTA Go Global, and I will be talking about global teams because indeed we work with global organizations across all continents, and the name of the company is ETTA Go Global. Let me try. I have made a little animation here. Is it working or not? Okay. Okay, it didn't work. ETTA was going beautiful. Okay, and we work with clients on topics such as leadership development and team development, building teams that really click, connecting people across borders. We work with many tools for profiling, for team effectiveness, team performance, to understand your people potential based on data. I will be talking about some of these today. And also the future ready skill set is with us. So I'm very happy to be talking about it today. Myself, I am Monika Chutnik, and I've been living and working with this company for 17 years now. It's been a pleasure, a joy, a discovery, and a lot of very interesting projects and very successful applications. I'm glad to share some of the experience that we have come across, because indeed what I'm presenting to you today is directly coming from the sense of lacking something. We sense that we lacked something in the international projects that we ran. We set out to search what might be a better approach, and we did find it. And today I'm going to talk about it to you. Maybe some of you also know me from hearing because I run two podcast channels. One of them is for English speakers. The other one is for Polish speakers. You can give it a go. I think the guests who are coming to my podcast are really very interesting. They share totally practical stories, approaches, benchmarks. So each of the episodes I personally find fascinating to listen. For example, this one with Heidemarie Oberg, who is based in Mexico, a German by parents, spent her life in Mexico, and currently, after many years corporate career, she is working as a team development consultant and is talking about not flying blind in the international teams, but really decoding your leadership algorithm. So what she is talking about in this particular episode is more or less similar to what we will be discussing in the session today. Now, I really want to see how I can turn on the animation here, because if I click like this, um, I have slides with some contents, and let me see if I go page down, is it working? No. If I go like this, is it working? No. I click, then you see the whole slide, page up. Ah, now it works. Page up, page down button. Thank you for the bearing with me. So let's meet each other. I also want to see who is in the room today. So basically, this is an evidence-based HR webinar. So I am having a fantasy that most of you are representing a HR function, but maybe some of you work as internal HR or learning and development or any other HR function inside an organization, or maybe you are an independent consultant, trainer, or coach. In this case, please write in internally or out externally so that we know what's the balance here in the room. Karolina Małgorzata, I can see your answers already. Aha, Marta, thank you. Emilia, thank you. Esther, thank you. Katarzyna, Annette, lovely. Aha, Philip, I can see many answers. So it seems many of you are working in-house and some of you, maybe individual people, are working out. I will be talking to both of these groups. So for those of you who are in-house, today is about getting data to show to your board, to show to your decisive people. And for those of you who are out working as external consultants, this is about giving your clients undeniable proof of your value. So both of you, both of these groups shall benefit from the session today. And what do we want to run in this webinar? Well, just like promised in the invitation, after the 60 minutes of today's session, you shall understand why productivity does not depend solely on individual talent, but on three invisible forces that can either build or break any team. And we will be drawing on Amy Edmondson's research on psychological safety. We will be drawing on findings from Google project Aristotle. Both of them clearly demonstrate that the quality of the team culture rather than the sum of its members' talents determines the global success. So it's already an interesting hint to look at. We will also look at, in fact, a groundbreaking study from Frontiers in Psychology, which shows that the geographical background accounts for only up to 12% of the differences between people. And from there, we will discover why cognitive diversity, rather than the cultural origin, is the layer of diversity with a proven impact of global team performance. We will also be using the Daniel Pink's model to understand how autonomy, mastery, and purpose translate into sustainable motivation across different cultures and time zones. And our starting point will be the evidence-based HR approach. So shifting away from intuition and toward data. I will be introducing the growth zone and global disk. So these are tools that allow you to visualize, to measure what often remains invisible within multinational teams. And with these frameworks, cultural frameworks, behavioral frameworks, HR finally stops guessing across borders and can start precisely planning interventions that deliver a real boost to international team performance. So that's an ambitious plan for today. We are having a 1-hour webinar. This is a webinar mode. So in fact, we will be interacting via chat only, but I think it should be good enough for us. I am inviting you to stay open for discovery, to stay curious. Our clients describe us as Curious and reliable. I like this combination, and I hope that you will also like this combination here in the session. And you can keep asking yourself, what's in it for me? Okay, what's in it for me? How does this apply to my particular role, company, situation? We will be having a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And if there is a question that you really want to ask, I will even stay longer so that none of the questions remains unanswered. Okay, we are good. It's time to start. So let's start strong. I want to start, maybe it's a little bit of a shocking start, but I want to tell you that what I am observing now, and it's a growing trend, is a credibility crisis in people development, people coaching, people development. And it seems that the traditional approaches are starting to hit a wall. It's a huge market. The coaching, the people development market is estimated globally at over $5 billion. So it's a huge market. The value is growing and the AI is becoming a bigger and a bigger part of it. But in fact, it is masking a major structural problem. Clients are becoming more skeptical, not less skeptical, because the market does no longer want to pay for intuition, it wants to pay for evidence. That's the change in the AI era, in the age of measuring everything, and it becomes quite obvious that people development also needs to be measured. So it is estimated that the people development market will still grow even up to $9 billion, really huge. But what clients demand is more proof. And when they don't have the proof, they easily replace the people development solutions with AI solutions that might be simply a commodity, cheaper to use. And I'm sure that just like me, you've already tried a AI assistant who was able to stimulate you with a few useful questions. So today we are not here to talk about abstract theories. We want to talk about what is breaking budgets and what is failing teams right now in 2026. So I will actually ask you maybe a little bit of a provocative question, but if we imagine a scale from 1 to 5, and 1 is a complete guesswork, guessing, and a 5 is a pure data-driven evidence. Now, look at your organization and tell me, how much does your organization or your clients currently rely on intuition when making global talent decisions? How is it really for you? Give a number in the chat. Be honest with it. How would you rate it? Yes, we have the first answer. Thank you, Katarzyna. What about the others? How much does your organization or your clients currently rely on intuition when making global talent decisions? The 1 is a completely intuition based, 5 is a completely data driven. A 3, a 3, Monika Aleksandra, thank you, Mariusz, Monika, good, a 3, Karolina, a 2, Magdalena, a 3, okay. Well, we see the tendency, okay, we see the tendency somewhere in the middle. So I'm guessing that there is some data, but much more data could be available, and still a lot of intuition is in the game. And this is actually why, do you know this research? 70% of business transformations hit a wall, they fail because we are managing the 2026 talent with intuition from 2010, maybe, maybe intuition always is based on past experiences. This is how it appears. So I want to tell you about the is it working? I'm still, okay, yes, this is what I wanted to achieve. A little bit of a reality check, especially for those of you who work in-house as HR leaders. Well, the hard truth is that 70% of transformations fail, and so many organizations are now currently undergoing a transformation. In fact, I'm not sure if I know any organization that is not undergoing a transformation at the moment. It might be a cultural transformation, transformation, a digital transformation, AI initiatives, AI transformation. Can you imagine that the business data shows that 70% of these transformations fail? They start, they get up to speed, and they seem to never be correctly applied. And what are the reasons behind? It seems that the plans are good. The what needs to be achieved is well defined, but there is a blind spot on how it needs to be achieved, so that, a blind spot that standard engagement surveys completely miss, like psychological safety, like cognitive agility, reflecting the needs of various people in the company. And another really painful statistics is that high performers leave 3 times faster. So if your organization is undergoing a business transformation, which is always painful, which is always a struggle, and when there is a tension, when there is lack of alignment, when there is dropping trust, the people who you lose the fastest are your gems. The best people go the fastest. That's the general statistics. Fortunately, not for every single person, but that's basically what statistics is showing. And when we look at the reality of distributed teams, of virtual teams, where we no longer have the access to daily cues on how engaged somebody is, for example, we might be just missing this data, or just completely being oblivious of this data until simply this person shows up as a voluntary attrition. But in fact, this voluntary attrition has been growing up throughout a certain period of time, and it was not caught early enough. So the question is, what measurements might you use to be able to catch those cases? This is a financially valid question when you look at more data on the cost of failed transformations, this time research from the UK, and the pricing in the amounts in British pounds, 55 up to 50 million pounds per organization, a huge amounts of money. So if you ever think of how you can talk to your leadership teams about the value of people development solutions, this is already a starting point. But also, if you work as an external coach or consultant or a trainer, you might be falling into a trap of, it feels good, okay, if we feel good. So we all tend to rely on positive smile sheets. Yes, how satisfied are you with the training, with the development process? The satisfaction is self-reported by participants, or even by the providing companies, and the frameworks are quite general, are not very detailed in terms of what people appreciated, what not. So where we need to go into is a diagnostic driven model, where you can really show your client what really changed, how the situation looked like in the beginning of the program, and how it looks like now after the intervention that you've done together. You need some baseline management. You need a proof that the performance really shifts in a sustainable way. So both sides really are interested in having access to measurable data and measuring the right data, because measuring is basically, we do measure many things, like in the well-being programs, for example, you measure how many people use your mindfulness apps, how many people go to yoga classes, maybe standard coaching is also measured, how many people have access to it. But let me tell you what research tells about well-being results, and I will be showing a slide on it later on with a little bit more detailed data. These are measures which are ineffective. So it seems that we are measuring something that doesn't matter, that doesn't have any impact. Okay, we measure this, but that's not the right thing to measure. So the market really is open for premium providers who can answer what exactly changed and by how much. So this is why we want to talk about these solutions here today. Okay, that's again my learning from the. Sorry about that. It's a feature which is not working for me correctly today. So The question is, how can we bridge the gaps in the current year, the 2026? How can we shift from, corporate lotteries of just investing in something because it's trendy, because others have done it? How can we make our interventions more precise, more accurate, and really more translating into real performance? I want to tell you about some specific gaps that currently exist. The knowledge gap, for example, between HR and science. So for example, the psychological safety, and today we'll be talking about this specific aspect. 93% of leaders actually are aware, they are already aware that psychological safety seems to be an important factor that drives performance. But when you look at how many have a strategy to measure or even to track it, it's less than 20%. So there is a gap here. Okay, the general belief and the general practice are not aligned. Another gap is the incentive mismatch. And let me tell you, as a person who is also working as a coach, a trainer, and in people development, and we love it. Yes, we coaches love people, but the leaders, how to say, have a different way of operating. They need business outcomes. Yes, so this is why these two elements, these two perspectives need to meet, and data seems to be the right language that can connect behavioral growth to shareholder value. And this is how both of these energies can really work well together towards business performance. And I personally appreciate it very much. Now, the final one, which I'm showing here, is the gap between the intuition and evidence. And it is especially applicable to international teams where we apply our local logic onto global processes, global or international teams. It seems that local approaches might be failing across borders. And if you've ever had a conversation with your headquarters or tried to convince somebody from another country that your approach seems to be making sense, and they seem to have a completely different approach, you might be understanding what I mean. We want no more guessing. We want to look at data, and this is what we will be looking in the session today. But even when we look at data, we need to be aware not to fall into the what we call here a dark triad of future risking solutions. Data that is outdated or maybe disconnected from what really matters. Maybe data that feels good, but in fact makes no difference, or maybe data which is a guess and hope. Okay, maybe it will work. Let me give you a few examples. For example, optimizing something that should not exist anymore. When you look at profiling tools, there are plenty in the markets, but let me tell you, 90% of the profiling tools that are in the market, and I am myself certified in 8 tools because I'm really into understanding how this works. They come from an era where people were not cooperating on a global scale. So the exposure to various cultural environments was almost non-existent. They were functioning in a specific environment with specific parameters. So it was easy to look at a specific person and, try to understand how this person was functioning. While now, the realities of global international teams that we are working in are bringing us so much diversity that we need to have another approach to profiling that really is adequate. That is an updated solution. Now, we also talked about the guess and hope. Let me tell you, there is a research of MIT Sloan, and they conducted a research why most people development programs are failing. They already made an assumption, and they made a bunch of interviews with people who are leaders in the industry. And now look here at this quote. I even pasted it for you. The majority said that they settle for positive reaction for the program or evidence or knowledge gain. So if people have learned something, it means, okay, this program made sense. But in fact, why do people go to the program? How many of us have been in trainings which felt very good during the training and even a day after, and those that were really spectacular let us think even a week later, but then the daily routine was simply sucking us away from what we have learned, and in fact nothing changed. So none of the respondents was linking the programming to changes in participants' career trajectories, maybe the attitudes or performance of the people who were participating, or maybe the outcomes on the team level or even the organization level. So it seems that maybe we're just measuring the here and now like an impulse, but not really looking at data that really makes sense for the organization. And this is a quote which I personally find funny, but it's a little bit striking, but I left it for you. So as one executive noted, leadership development decisions seem to resemble the online dating industry, where swiping left or right is based more on appearance than a substance. So we tend to be selecting programs that are nicely wrapped, that look sexy, not really think so much about what this program will really bring to the organization. Now, these guess and hope solutions are also what I promised you to talk about. An example and a research done recently by Bajiga and Alexandra Kafka. It was based on interviews with businesses in the UK, and all kinds of businesses ranging from agile startups to formidable enterprise level entities spanning various industries. They identified 7 key challenges that organizations must confront to foster a culture of engagement and well-being. And the surprising finding was that the fundamental challenges faced by these organizations in improving people management and well-being, and along with the strategies employed to address them, were remarkably universal among businesses, among types of industries. Well, not only were the challenges similar, but also the approach. And let me tell you, only 30% of those companies measured engagement by survey to collect data, and 0% of them measured psychological safety, which is the foundation of engagement and the number one trait of high performing teams. So it seems that all the current data and future trends point in the same direction. Well, that investing into employees is going to provide the highest return on investment, chance of survival. We just need to be measuring the right thing and going in the right direction. Talking about the employee engagement programs, companies invest a huge amount of money in addressing the symptoms rather than the real issues. So the symptoms rather than the root causes. Now have a look at this quote here. Out of 90 different interventions analyzed in the study, only one really shown to improve the employee well-being, and it was volunteer work. And the rest that just didn't matter. 89 different types of, employee engagement, well-being, something didn't really translate into any output. So this is something that we might be considering. Maybe we are, checking symptoms, but not really measuring not really healing the root cause. The same thing with feels good, but makes no difference is, for example, taking something that already looks familiar, that looks fantastic, maybe sexy. For example, let's look at the growth mindset. Wouldn't we like to have a growth mindset? Wouldn't we like to teach our people how to have a growth mindset? Now, let me tell you, a research was done at schools with a formidable number of, watch out, 15,000 students, okay, participated in this research. And it became clear that no matter how much growth mindset an individual student was having, if the school was not a friendly place, if it was not organizing, some scaffolding to support the growth mindset, the result could only probably have been frustration, but certainly no progress. So it even seems that such a nice quote and a nice idea, concept, the growth mindset, we might be measuring the wrong thing. It seems that the social environment is much more important than we ever thought before, and the research data and the benchmarks are showing this in a consistent way. So we want to start measuring what really matters instead of keeping guessing, and especially across borders. So now I want to tell you finally what are the three invisible forces that make or break any team. Do you already have a guess what they might be? You might share in the chat if you like. What might be the three invisible forces that make or break the team? I was making many hints towards them already in the first section of the webinar. I will leave a moment for you to comment in the chat if you like. Okay, let me go with the first one. The first one is psychological safety. Natalia, you are absolutely spot on. Yes, trust is something between me and you. Yes, I can trust you. You can trust me. And now, what happens when there is a pressure in the team? Well, I trust you. You trust me. We hold on to each other, and the rest is not really trustful. So what you get in teams is silos, and psychological safety is something that is shared by team members. So this is why it's more useful in measuring real business environment and the business performance. And this is what I will be talking about in today. Now, let me tell you, there is already so much data and evidence that psychological safety is really the number one business imperative. This is really the number one that makes global teams work and that makes any teams work. The most famous benchmark that many of you might have heard of is the Google project, which was called Aristotle. Let me just tell you quickly that Google invested 2 years in trying to understand what are the features of the high-performing teams. They selected 80 teams from their own business, and they tried to understand maybe what features the individual people should have, maybe the most intelligent people, maybe the most fancy people, maybe people who spend time together in the afternoons. Maybe it's about a leader. They've been looking for it, then they spent 2 years or nothing. On nothing. They were not coming to any conclusions until they found an earlier research of Amy Edmondson, which was already 20 years old, but simply because it was run in a medical sector, the business world did not discover it early enough. It needed to be Google that gave it publicity. And to summarize, the psychological safety is the number one predictor of team effectiveness. And it's not the sum of individual talents, but it's more like a culture where people can take risks without fear, without being ashamed, without being punished. And just imagine when you have an issue to solve or your team is in a difficult situation, and some people contribute to looking for a solution and some people just keep quiet because maybe they are not thinking my idea is right. Have you ever been in a meeting where you were not even daring to ask a question because you thought, what is this ABCD abbreviation about? It looks familiar. Everybody seems to be knowing it, but I will look stupid when I ask this question. Yes. And the end meeting, let me tell you from the consultant perspective, is that in the meeting, nobody knows what this ABCD abbreviation is about. That's really incredible. So people are talking about something, but in fact, none of them really knows it to the core. Well, the 2026 shift is that psychological safety has stopped being just a buzzword. Yes, maybe in the last years it was becoming popular, but it was more like a buzzword. Like people are, okay, psychological safety, it sounds nice, but now we know that psychological safety is the ultimate foundation for collective decision making, especially now in the age of AI, when everybody can easily get an AI aid or support or technicalities, but it's about teams and the decision intelligence that they have together, how this AI is used. So teams are now our competitive advantage. And you already know this data, 93% of business leaders agree that psychological safety impacts performance, but fewer than 20% have a strategy to measure it. This is something that we need, that we really need to look at, yes, and to really change. I'm telling you about the benefits of psychological safety, but also there is a liability that lies on us as employers. And let me tell you that the World Health Organization it was already 10 years ago, I think, maybe even 15 years ago, that it identified psychosocial hazards, which are now treated as a modern epidemics. Just look at the burnout as a toxic stress, lack of psychological safety. Is it the root cause of many burnout issues? I will tell you why in the webinar later. So it is also becoming an obligation of the employer to take care about safety in this area. So, for example, in Poland, we've got the National Labor Inspectorate, PIP, so-called, yes, and it actively audits organization for psychological risk in the workplace. Now the question is, how can you prove that you are really taking care about this dimension? How can you really tap into this, let's say, invisible liability in distributed teams? Well, the good news is that we are on the learning curve. The first EHSS standard came to business life 200 years ago. It was about the physical safety. As in the beginning, in the UK was the first country to introduce that, and it took 200 years later. We already know very well how to take care about physical safety in the workplace. Now, well, it was just 10 years ago that psychosocial hazards have been identified as another important factor. And we need to learn how to measure it, how to address it, how to take care of it. And this is why we are in this webinar today. I'm giving you how to say, a push on data and on insights about how to really work with it. So when it comes to hybrid or virtual global teams, I want to ask you a question to answer in the chat. Where do you think the biggest psychosocial risk is hiding right now? The burnout, the hidden friction, maybe the drop trust. Please please type one word. Is it a managers, processes, or culture? Please type a word in the chat. What do you think? When it comes to hybrid or virtual global teams, where do you think the biggest psychosocial risk is hiding right now from your perspective? I'm seeing the first answers. Thank you. Let's get more managers. Many managers. Many of you are writing managers. Marta, you're also writing culture. Beautiful. So you might be very right, and we would see this also from our external consultant perspective. But here is the catch. So how do you prove to an inspector or a board before people start burning out? Sorry. You just can't guess. You need to measure it somehow. Yes, that's the point. And you can't manage what you can't measure. And the standards tools don't show you the invisible friction. And this is why we use the growth zone scan. And this is what enables us to make the theoretically unmeasured completely visible and compliant. Okay, and again, I'm looking for the animation. The second factor, number one is psychological safety. The second factor is motivation. Yes, we already know about it, but the approach to motivation has been dramatically changing throughout history. We've been navigating away. Do you remember the pyramid of needs? Everybody knows the pyramid of motivation, but it bases on an assumption that our basic needs are biological, with survival needs. Well, the current business is very heavily relying on the concepts of motivation from the era of industrialization motivation, the 19th century when the factories were becoming a part of the people reality, where you needed to give a prize to people, a little carrot, so that they work for you, or maybe you needed to punish them so that they don't repeat the wrong things. Now the approach to motivation has completely changed. We have realized that the carrot and stick are not really sustainable over time. The more carrot you give to people, the more carrot they want. As soon as you stop the punishment, the people stop caring. Yes, so these are completely external motivators. Now we want to drive the motivation that is really sustainable. This is the internal motivation, and this approach assumes that we also have intrinsic desires to create, to learn, to make the world a better place. And when you look at these three items, you will see how this motivation 3.0 translate into specific parameters. So autonomy, the deeply rooted human desire to direct our own lives and work, the mastery, so the urge to progress, to get better into something that truly matters for you, and then the purpose. Can you recognize the urge of the new generations? What does your company really do? What's the purpose that you served? So the yearning to do what we do in service of something larger than ourselves. But now here's the catch. When you look at, for example, autonomy. Yes, one man's autonomy is another man's abandonment. Let's look at the reality of global teams. So, for example, a European manager is trying to grant autonomy to a distributed team member, but the point is that the team member is coming from a highly hierarchical, risk-averse culture, like, for example, India, and well, the result is that instead of feeling motivated by autonomy, the person feels abandoned, and they are completely unmotivated. They are also polarized by the lack of explicit direction. So what you need to look at is the global dimension. You cannot really optimize motivation 3.0 until you understand the exact cognitive styles of individual team members, especially under pressure, because when we have pressure, we really get into our natural style. So this is why I'm talking about the third super force. This is a cognitive diversity, and this is where we want to look at. And we all know this tendency, especially so much research on leaders, that as leaders we like to hang out with people, we like to employ people that look at the reality similar like we do. Maybe not exactly like this, but more or less like this. But what kind of diversity of thinking do you get in this team, in this case? Yes. Well, think about your current cross-border teams. Okay. When the cooperation is coming to a close, it's becoming uncomfortable. How often do people immediately blame cultural differences or country stereotypes? Please tell me in the chat. Maybe it's always, maybe it's sometimes, maybe it's rarely. How is it for you when people work in a global team? Yes, and well, suddenly the people from India are not delivering, and maybe the people from Poland are doing something, or the people from US, let's say, yes, depending. What's your answer? I'm getting a few answers already. Often, sometimes, sometimes, yes. We do work a lot as a company in this international environment. So let me tell you that is really frequent. And the blaming, those, and now some adjectives, those people from that country don't know how to do the business. They are always pressing, they're always pushing, or maybe on the contrary, they're always lazy, or maybe they're always late, or maybe they are always so it's about all of them. But that's an easy scapegoat. But let me tell you, science shows that geography is responsible for only 2 up to 12% of the variance. So the real culprit here is the cognitive diversity under pressure. So this is what we are going to look at now. And here you can see this research data from Frontiers in Psychology. So if your global strategy stops at learning local business etiquette or country level or generalizations, you are missing around 90% of what actually drives human behavior in the specific teams. Now, let me be very clear. When you operate a group a group. For example, you've got a client customer care located in Poland, which is servicing random clients from France. So here you've got groups, and you really need to look at the norms of, let's say, Polish business culture. And there you usually will meet some norms of French business culture. But as soon as these people mix together into one team, this cultural stereotyping stops being useful completely. And this is precisely the situation that I am referring to right now. So I am not saying that knowing about cultural norms doesn't make sense. On the contrary, it can be a very good introduction on a general level, but it will not be able to provide or explain situations in your specific team. And we are talking about team performance. Today we want to have data on it. And what might be the data? Well, this homophilic temptation, so employing people who are similar like me, was actually a great case study from the global disc, which I'm showing to you today. Have a look here. 8 people in the team, each of them coming from a different country. Can you see the flags at the top? And now look at the bottom of this chart and look at the range of cognitive diversity. So it seems that they made so much attempt to employ people from all over the world who are thinking and looking at the world in a very similar way. And it means that their blind spot was 78% of the scales that were not used. We are talking about a leadership team where, you know, the company had an idea that leaders need to have specific features, a way of thinking. And this is where the power of diversity is completely unused, and we are not tapping into the potential of a team. Now, this is absolutely beautiful. Let me show you one more research. This one, it's a team from Malaysia, and you can see here the flag. No, is it Indonesia? I always mix these two countries. Please help me in the chat. The flag is showing the cultural norm. So what we imagine would be typical for that culture. And now these individual people show you the real results of cognitive diversity in this specific team. So you can see that even this particular team was not really representing the cultural stereotype. Maybe just one person that was usually, can you see the purple one? Usually this one is along the cultural norms, but the rest are not. Well, let's have a look at another example. I will show you example of both people are male. Yes, both people were born in 1948, so they're the same generation. Yes, and they were raised in the UK, even married twice. Let me tell you, they lived in a castle. Wealthy and famous, even a certain lifestyle is similar. Are these people the same? When you have this person in a team, would you be imagining that your idea of working with a Brit would be relevant? No, because when you work in a specific team, you need to look at a specific person with the cultural luggage. So this is why you need tools like Global Disc to help you understand what it really means. One more case. A large German company employed many Brazilian engineers. They had to create, we had to create a high-performing teams. So how similar do you think were these teams? If you just start without data, you would probably go with, okay, the Brazilian people need to learn about the German culture, and the Germans need to learn that the Brazilians are, you know, a little bit spontaneous in planning and, you know, a little bit more social. So this is what we would usually start with. We would start with a training on general picture of a culture. But when you look at this specific team, just look at the profiles of these Brazilian engineers, and you can see that the profiles of these people who are in this team were much more German than any German might be. In fact, can you see the little people here? So on every dimension of diversity here, or cognitive diversity, they were more reflecting the German culture. Why? Because some of them even left Brazil because it was too chaotic for them. Well, they needed to navigate the ways in Germany, for example, how to buy a bus ticket, but in a cognitive way, they finally found themselves in an environment that is more aligned with their beliefs and values. And you might be recognizing that also for some of you, it will be easier to work with the UK, but very difficult to work with Germany or vice versa, because these two cultures have cultural norms that reflect to different cognitive profiles. So let's not guess, let's not assume, because there is much more than just demographics or culture can tell us. In that case, we were based on stereotypes or even prejudice instead of real data. And the global disk, for example, shows you real data of real people. Well, another approach to psychometric models is that you measure, the personality assessment. But as I told you previously, it's usually done in isolation, and this is why it doesn't tell a full story about us, because let's say you know your profile so hard that you know every detail of it, but where do you plant this profile? Where do you put this person? What kind of an environment is this person going to have to function in? Let's have a look. Do you put this person in a snow, or maybe in a desert? Yes, or maybe in a jungle, a completely different environment? What behavior strategies will this person need to apply to be able to survive? And how it will blossom in the right environment. Yes, so depending where you put it, you will get very different results. And why is it important? Because we don't exist in isolation. Our personality determines how we want to behave, but the environment determines how we have to behave. Yes, that's why looking at both these dimensions makes complete sense. And let me tell you that a global disk is the first tool ever. And I'm telling you, as a person who is qualified, licensed in 8 various profiling or assessment tools, is the first tool ever that I met that really is combining the level of a person with the level of the environment, especially on a global scale, with the profiles of 50 countries, where you can also compare your individual profile with 50 countries. You can see how the person is functioning, how do these what's the essence of it? Yes, what is the behavioral output? How does this person behave? And then finally the core of it, the cultural orientation. So why does a specific communication style feel right or wrong? Yes, we go to the level of values, and this is the level of precise information, where you can also work not only with an individual but also understand this as a team. Yes, and you can start bridging the interaction gap precisely and intentionally. Yes, for example, to a country, maybe even between two individuals where they cannot really cooperate with each other very well. We need to start from seeing the data. Yes, maybe between departments or any other teams. This is what we want to look at, so that we really bridge the interaction gap precisely and intentionally. Now I can see we only have 7 minutes to go, but there is still a huge chapter which I want to share with you. So let me let me ask you the $1 billion question. Okay, so where is my team? I want to know that. Okay, and I'm sure that if you were giving this presentation to your leaders, adjusting it to your business reality, they would ask you the same. Okay, so tell me how I can measure where my team really is. Okay, and how do you know? Okay, relying on the anecdotal feedback, on the standard annual surveys seems to be not the right data. Relying on good feelings, we already discussed that it's more like intuition than data. That's not what we want. We want to have real information. So with another tool here from the ICQ Global Toolset, you can measure, you can visualize, you can optimize, and you can work towards growing performance in a team. That's a proven process with measurable results, with transparent results. And you can see, for example, here, I already told you the growth zone is that you have high psychological safety, high motivation. At the top of it, you really have the high performance zone. And this is where you can see, is my team positioned in that or not? Where is my team positioned? On average, where is in each individual member of my team position? Now, watch out. I told you about the burnout. I think this is a game changer in thinking about burnout. When you have a high motivation. So you have a highly motivated and engaged individual, but the environment does not offer psychological safety. See here at the bottom right, this is the burnout zone. The more you want, the faster you will burn. So the only survival strategy in this case is going into the apathy and trying to survive. And these people will stay long with you. Yes, the people who really want to change something, who really are engaged, they will burn out if you don't offer the environment of psychological safety. Remember the case of the growth zone, which I shared with you. But once you start the measurement and once you have access to the data, you also know where you need to look at. Where is your energy flowing? What are the critical points? And you can design a development process that will bring such a result. You can even get this as a comparison in numbers. What changed? What became lower? What's the spread between the biggest, the highest, and the lowest answer? I can even show you a real case study from a company in Indonesia. This is a mining company. So when my colleagues from ICQ Global started working with them, they had 17 accidents a week. So it's a shocking. But once they started working with the psychological safety and motivation, starting from measurement, they were able to reach a very beautiful results. And a few months later, they became a leader in physical safety in the whole region. This is a real case study. Sinarmas is the name of this company, and they have been now many times praised for the keeping the physical safety. So you can see how psychological safety really translates into business results. Okay, so business is not a fortune cookie. As team performance does not come from guessing, it comes from data. And this is what I want to invite you to introduce the data-driven people architecture, to scale psychological safety, to scale cognitive diversity in a way which is almost like mathematics. It's very precise. Hard mathematical frameworks, yes, designed to map the exact gaps between regions, between departments, between individual reasons, measurable with the same precision as finance or operations, yes. And we measure before we design, and we measure after we deliver, and we see precisely what has changed and how it directly correlates with team performance and with retention. You've got data, yes? This was proven in many businesses in many countries around the world, so it's a very good solution which we are now pulling into Poland to make it much more widespread, and looking at the two gaps, securing team performance without guessing and standing out from the commodity market. This is the value proposition which I want to offer to you. So choose your track. If you are an in-house HR, let me invite you to consider corporate B2B solutions. When we talk about the evidence-based implementation, you can partner with us at ETTA Go Global to run such a comprehensive psychological safety scan for your critical teams. You can deploy targeted leadership development, and you can see measurable business impact, even from day one. When you are an independent professional, consultant, trainer, or a coach, or when you are an internal HR who also works developmentally with your people, we can invite you to a professional certification to get your license in Global Disc or in Growth Zone. I will be running the next certification session in September this year. This is going to be run in English. It's a really premium certification program that really meets the challenges of today's global reality. So I'm inviting you to stop competing on price and being just like intuition driven like anybody else, but really bring a diagnostic driven clarity directly into your client portfolio. Okay. Uh, important messages, and a real fascination of ourselves. Let me tell you that looking for this and finding the right approach has taken me myself a few years, and I'm so glad with what I have found that I am really recommending it to you with all my hands and legs all together. I will also gladly set an appointment with you if you want to know more about it in an individual conversation. But before I share the contact data, I still want to ask you this final question. It's important, yes? So please complete this sentence in the chat. Before today, I thought that global team success was about, and now I see it's truly about. Okay, what's the shift? What's the shift that you experienced during this webinar as we are wrapping the webinar, the masterclass? My colleague Camila has pasted this phrase in the chat so that it's easier for you to structure your thinking. And I'm waiting for your answers. And as promised, I will stay for a Q&A session, which later you can ask in the chat. And let's keep the conversation moving. Thank you, Marta. Camila, maybe you can also paste the contact data in case you want to get in chat. I will show you this one. I love this one. Can you imagine that countries and cultures can also be distributed? And when you imagine what these mean, you get into obviously being licensed with it. You understand how it works. And now you can see the profile of your client, of your team, of your leader, and you will precisely know what they will struggle with and why. And you can get ready for this. You can work on exploring, on expanding the cognitive flexibility, yes, and you can also get your profile against any profile of any other person or culture, whatever. Okay, so what was what was the takeaway from you? I'm still waiting for your answers. And Maciej, what might be one practical real life tip for building psychological safety that we can start implementing today? Maciej, I think the easiest one, the first one directly after the webinar, would be to go to your team and simply talk about it and discuss together why and in which way psychological safety and motivation really translate into business performance. Let's explore this together. So our real barrier is that most teams and most leaders are not aware. So when I was studying management in my student times, I learned about what to deliver and many, flows and ways to plan and making it happen. But we never learned about how the team functions and so on. This is why after my degree in business management, I went for another degree in sociology. And only then it started making sense, because now I finally understood why some teams perform and some don't, and they are equipped in the same tools, okay, the same rationale. So Maciej, to summarize my answer is the first step is go and talk about psychological safety and discuss together how people understand that and why they think it translates onto team performance. That's the first step. Just like I told you in a previous slide, you get the team performance output from day one, because once the teams realize that this is such a major factor, they really are like, aha, now we know what to address. Now we know what to measure, what to manage, and so on. Mariusz, thank you for your answer. I thought global team success was about culture awareness. Aha, yes, and psychological safety. Yes, they come together hand in hand. Thank you, Mariusz. It's 2 past 12 in my time zone, and for most of you probably as well. I'm still looking for your comments, for your takeaway in the chat. Okay, absolutely. I loved you being with you today. If you have a question, I'm still waiting for you to ask this question if you like to. And yes, let me really invite you to consider that and to not ignore the trends and to not ignore the science, but really start measuring what really matters. Remember the three invisible forces that make or break the team. Psychological safety is number one, a complete game changer. Motivation, probably we already knew something about that. Now it's about the motivation 3.0. How do we identify the intrinsic motivation and so on? You might already be quite equipped in this. And then the cognitive diversity in the global setup, in the international setup. So please feel welcome to talk to us either about solutions for your company, or if you consider yourself interested to get qualified, to get licensed, please talk directly to me or to my partner, Ola. Thank you so much for the session today. Staying in touch, I'm wishing you all the best team performance and success in your fantastic teams. Thanks a lot. Oh, very pleasant. I can see the reactions. Beautiful. Let me also share a little reaction with you. I really appreciated you being here, and I think it was a great investment. Let me tell you, I'm running so many workshops, webinars, but really sessions, yes, for leadership teams in EMEA level and so on. And they all go like, why didn't we know this before? Now we finally know how to deal with team performance. Okay, so fingers crossed for you. Thank you. And we'll be ending the meeting.